I sold Mom's necklace. So what? Those were my daughter's exact words when I discovered she'd sold my dead husband's $92,000 family heirloom for a spring break trip to Mykonos. I'm Cheryl Maxwell, 53 years old, and my two-year-old daughter Jordan had just made the biggest mistake of her life. See, Jordan thought I was a broke failure, a pathetic widow who couldn't even afford her college tuition. She'd been posting videos online, calling me worthless, mocking my grief, bragging about selling her father's jewelry to fund her luxury lifestyle. What Jordan didn't know was that I wasn't just some hospital administrator scraping by on a $54,000 salary. I was the anonymous donor who'd been funding her full scholarship for 5 years. $2.4 million, all in her father's memory. With one phone call, I could destroy everything she'd built, and I was about to. You're going to want to stick around for this one. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, because this story gets complicated in ways my daughter never saw coming. Let me tell you how my daughter learned that disrespecting your family's history comes with a price that goes deeper than money. To understand what happened, you need to know how Jordan saw me. In her eyes, I was a failure. 53 years old, widowed black woman working hospital administration, making $54,000 a year, living in a modest 3-bedroom house in East Charlotte that cost me $1,650 monthly, driving a 2016 Honda Accord with 142,000 miles on it. My clothes came from Target. My furniture was 15 years old. My idea of a splurge was Olive Garden once a month. Vincent, my husband, had died 18 months earlier. Sudden heart attack at 51. Jordan blamed me for not having enough money for better preventive care, as if love could be measured in medical bills, as if a black man's heart attack was something money alone could have prevented. But Jordan didn't want to think about systemic healthcare disparities. She wanted someone to blame, and I was convenient. The first sign of how little she respected me came at a family dinner 6 weeks ago. Jordan brought 3 friends from Whitmore University, all of them white, all of them wealthy, all of them wearing clothes that cost more than my monthly car payment. "Jordan, your mom seems really nice," one girl said, her tone making nice sound like an insult wrapped in politeness. Jordan laughed. That particular laugh she developed somewhere between freshman and junior year, the one that sounded like she was apologizing for my existence. "Yeah, she works really hard. Hospital administration. You know, scheduling, paperwork, that kind of thing." The way she said it made my job sound like something to be pitied. "Must be tough," another girl said, eyeing our living room. The worn couch, the outdated TV, the family photos in Walmart frames. I mean, financially. With Jordan's tuition and everything. "Oh, I'm on full scholarship," Jordan said quickly. "Academic merit. My mom couldn't afford Whitmore even if she worked 3 jobs." She said it like I wasn't sitting right there, like I was furniture she was embarrassed to own. "Jordan," I said quietly. "What?" "It's true. You couldn't pay $62,000 a year for my education if you tried." Her friends nodded sympathetically, like I was a charity case. They were all too polite to acknowledge directly. I said nothing. What could I say that wouldn't make Jordan's embarrassment worse? The second humiliation happened at a parent-teacher conference 3 weeks ago. Professor Harold Smith was discussing Jordan's academic performance. She had a 3.6 gigapascals, excellent for most students, but Jordan wanted perfection. "Miss Maxwell," Professor Smith said, "Jordan's scholarship requires maintaining a 3.5 minimum. She's well above that threshold. The Vincent Maxwell Memorial Fund has very specific criteria." Jordan's face went tight. "Professor Smith, can we not discuss my financial aid in front of my mother? It's embarrassing enough that she can't contribute to my education." "Jordan, I was simply noting that you're meeting all requirements," Professor Smith said carefully. "My mother works in hospital administration," Jordan interrupted. "She schedules appointments and files paperwork. Please don't make this more awkward than it already is by discussing money she doesn't have." I watched Professor Smith's face change. He knew something Jordan didn't, but he said nothing, just nodded politely and moved on to discussing Jordan's thesis project. After the meeting, Jordan cornered me in the parking lot. "Mom, seriously, stop coming to these things. You make me look pathetic. Everyone knows you're poor." "Jordan, your father. Dad's dead, Mom. And you couldn't even afford to save him. Maybe if we'd had money for better doctors, he'd still be alive. But we didn't. Because you never made anything of yourself." That night, I sat in Vincent's old office, surrounded by his books. Vincent had been a beloved history professor at Whitmore University for 18 years. He'd taught African American history, specializing in Reconstruction. Students had loved him. When he died, the university memorial service filled the main auditorium. 300 people showed up to honor a man who dedicated his life to teaching young people about resilience, about the long road from slavery to freedom. On his desk was a photo from our wedding day 26 years ago. I wore a simple dress, but around my neck was the family treasure, Vincent's great-great-grandmother's locket. Gold, delicate, worn smooth by generations of hands. Inside were 2 tiny photographs and a scrap of paper. Freedom Papers from 1865. The documentation that proved Vincent's great-great-grandmother, Esther Maxwell, had purchased her own freedom for $800 in gold. That locket represented everything Vincent's family had fought for. It was the first thing they'd ever truly owned, the proof that they were people, not property. The insurance appraisal listed its value at $92,000, mostly because of the historical significance of the Freedom Papers. But its real value was incalculable. It was history. It was identity. It was proof that we came from people who refused to stay broken. Jordan knew the locket's worth. She'd had it appraised twice since Vincent's death, claiming she wanted to understand Dad's collection. I should have seen the warning signs, but I was grieving. I was trying to be the mother Vincent would have wanted me to be, patient, understanding, forgiving. March 22nd changed everything. I came home from work to find Jordan packing designer luggage I'd never seen before. Louis Vuitton, the real thing. "Going somewhere?" I asked. "Mykonos," she said, not looking up. "Spring break trip with the girls. We rented a villa on the beach." "That sounds expensive." She laughed. $12,000 for the week. "Don't worry, Mom. I didn't ask you to pay for it. I know you don't have that kind of money." Something cold settled in my stomach. "Jordan, how did you pay for a $12,000 trip?" That's when she held up her phone, showing me a photo. A jewelry store receipt. $92,000. "I sold Dad's locket," she said casually. "Finally put that old thing to good use." The room went silent except for the sound of my heart breaking. Not the dramatic kind of heartbreak you see in movies, the quiet kind. The kind that happens when you realize your child has become someone you don't recognize. "Jordan," I whispered, "that was your father's great-great-grandmother's locket, the Freedom Papers. Esther Maxwell's documentation from 1865. Yeah, and now it's paying for my spring break." She zipped her suitcase, still not looking at me. "Dad's dead, Mom. He doesn't need jewelry, and neither do you. It was just sitting in a drawer collecting dust." I stared at my daughter. This person I'd carried for 9 months, raised for 22 years, sacrificed for in ways she'd never understand. And I saw a stranger. Someone who looked like Vincent around the eyes but had none of his reverence for history, none of his understanding that some things matter more than money. "Your father wore that locket every single day of our marriage," I said, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. "Every anniversary, every important moment. His grandmother gave it to him when he turned 18. She told him it represented 4 generations of Maxwell family survival. From slavery to freedom to building a life. That locket was supposed to go to your children, Jordan. To their children. It was history. She rolled her eyes. Actually rolled her eyes at 150 years of family history. History doesn't pay for Instagram content, Mom. And honestly, I'm tired of pretending to care about slavery stories and struggle narratives. That's not who I am. Then who are you? Someone who's moving forward instead of living in the past. Someone who's making something of herself. She grabbed her suitcase and headed for the door. Unlike some people in this family. If I'm such a disappointment, I said quietly, maybe you should pay for your own education too. Jordan laughed. She actually laughed. Mom, I'm on full scholarship, academic merit. Something you wouldn't understand since you never went to a real college yourself. That stung. I'd gone to community college for my associate's degree while working full-time. Had taken night classes for my bachelor's in healthcare administration. Had done it all while raising Jordan and supporting Vincent through his PhD program. But in Jordan's mind, my 2-year college and state university credentials didn't count. Not like her prestigious Whitmore University acceptance. Your scholarship covers $62,000 a year in tuition plus housing, I said. Yeah, because I'm smart, because I worked hard, because I got a 3.6 gigapascals. Who do you think pays for scholarships, Jordan? She paused at the door. Rich white people who want tax breaks. Donors with actual money, not whatever this is. She gestured around our modest living room with contempt. People who can actually afford to be generous. What if I told you I know exactly who funds your scholarship? I'd say you're having another one of your grief episodes, Mom. You work in hospital administration. You schedule appointments and file insurance paperwork. You don't know any rich people. The Vincent Maxwell Memorial Scholarship Fund, I said slowly. Does that name sound familiar to you? That's my scholarship, yeah. Some generic fund for first-generation students. You never wondered who Vincent Maxwell was? Jordan's face went blank for a moment. Then she shrugged. Probably some old white donor who liked the name. There are a million scholarship funds with random names. It doesn't mean anything. It was your father's name, Jordan. Vincent Maxwell. Your father. That's a coincidence. Dad was a history professor, not a donor. He didn't have money to create scholarship funds. No, he didn't. But I do. Jordan stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. You're lying. Your father's family had money, Jordan. His great-great-grandmother Esther bought her freedom in 1865. Her children invested that freedom, built something. By the time your father inherited the family trust, it was worth $4.8 million. When he died, it came to me. And I've been using it to honor his memory by funding full scholarships for students like you thought you were, students whose parents couldn't afford $62,000 a year in tuition. You're making this up. Am I? Call the University Development Office on Monday. Ask them who funds the Vincent Maxwell Memorial Scholarship. Ask them who the anonymous donor is. They won't tell you the name, but Professor Smith knows. He saw your name on the recipient list and realized you were my daughter. That's why he looked so uncomfortable during our conference. Jordan's face had gone pale. If this is true, if you actually have money, then why do we live like this? Why do you dress like you shop at Goodwill? Why do you drive a car with 142,000 miles on it? Because your father taught me that how you live matters more than what you own. That money is a tool, not an identity. That the most important thing you can do with wealth is use it to help others move forward. So you've been pretending to be poor? While I've been embarrassed of you for years? I wasn't pretending, Jordan. This is who I am. The money doesn't change that. It just changes what I can do for people I love, or people I thought I loved. She stood frozen in the doorway, suitcase in hand, phone in the other, her face a mixture of confusion and something that might have been shame if she'd let herself feel it. I'm still going to Mykonos, she said finally. I know you are, and when I get back, We're going to talk about this. About you lying to me for years. I didn't lie, Jordan. I just didn't correct your assumptions. There's a difference. She left for the airport that afternoon without saying goodbye. I sat in Vincent's office, holding the photo from our wedding day, the one where I wore the locket that was now gone forever, sold to pay for a beach vacation. And I thought about Vincent, about what he would want me to do. Would he say forgive her? Would he say let it go? Or would he say that sometimes the most loving thing a parent can do is let their child face the consequences of their choices? I didn't know. Vincent was gone. And the locket that connected us to Esther Maxwell, to 1,865, to freedom itself, was gone too. Sold for Instagram content. Traded for status. Erased like it meant nothing. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Dr. Patricia Morrison, Vice President of Development at Whitmore University, the woman who'd helped me set up the Vincent Maxwell Memorial Scholarship Fund 5 years ago. The woman who knew exactly who I was, even though to the rest of the university I was just another anonymous donor. My finger hovered over her name. One call. That's all it would take. One call and Jordan's scholarship would be revoked. One call and she'd owe $31,000 for the current semester. One call and her entire carefully constructed life would collapse. But I didn't call. Not yet. Because Jordan was about to post something on Instagram that would make the decision easier, something that would cross a line so completely that there'd be no going back. So I waited. Watched her stories from Greece. Watched her performance of wealth and privilege funded by her father's memory. And I prepared myself for what I was about to do. Sometimes love means holding the line. Sometimes it means letting people fall so they can learn to stand on their own. I just hoped Vincent would understand. For 5 days, I watched Jordan's Instagram stories from Mykonos. Each one was a knife twisting deeper. Champagne on private yachts at sunset. Designer swimwear at beach clubs that charged $400 just for a lounge chair. Dinners at restaurants where a single appetizer cost more than my weekly grocery budget. All of it funded by 150 years of family history, sold to a jeweler who probably melted down the gold without ever reading the freedom papers inside. But it was the captions that pushed me past the point of forgiveness. Day 2. Living my best life with real friends who actually have money. Sometimes you have to leave broke people behind to level up. No regrets. Day 3. When your mom can't afford to give you anything but you give yourself everything. Self-made and proud. Day 4. Finally escape the struggle. If you're still living in poverty mentality, that's a choice. The comments were worse. Hundreds of people, mostly white girls from similar backgrounds, celebrating her. You deserve this. Goals. Finally free from toxic family. Jordan responded to every compliment, soaking in the validation like it could fill whatever hole was eating at her from the inside. Then came March 27th, 5:47 p.m., the post that changed everything. A video. Jordan on a yacht, holding up her wrist to show a new diamond bracelet, clearly expensive, sparkling in the Mediterranean Sunday. Behind her, the blue water. Beside her, her white friends laughing and clinking champagne glasses. And her voice, slightly drunk, completely shameless. So everyone's been asking how I afforded this trip. Here's the truth. I sold my dead dad's old jewelry. Some antique locket he never even wore. Got $92,000 for it, and I have zero regrets. She paused, took a sip of champagne, then looked directly at the camera. People are gonna say I'm disrespectful or whatever. But you know what? My dad died because my mom couldn't afford good health care. They lived their whole lives broke, pretending that struggle was noble. I'm done with that. His legacy is worth more to me as cash than as some sentimental guilt trip sitting in a drawer. The video continued for another 30 seconds. Her laughing, her friends cheering, her raising the bracelet to the camera and saying, "This is what freedom looks like, not some old papers from slavery times." This, right here, living my truth. She tagged the location, tagged the yacht company, tagged luxury brands, tagged her friends, made sure everyone knew she'd traded her father's memory for a lifestyle upgrade. Then she added hashtags. Lots of them. Self-made. No regrets. Living my best life. Freedom. New money. Generational wealth breaker. I watched that video 3 times. Each time, Vincent's voice echoed in my head. Things he'd said about Esther Maxwell, about how she'd saved for 8 years to buy her freedom, about how those papers represented not just her liberation but the promise that her children would never be property, about how the locket had been passed down through 4 generations, as a reminder that we came from people who refused to be broken. And Jordan had called it junk, had called her father's legacy a guilt trip, had said his death was my fault because we were broke. The comments started rolling in. At first, they were supportive, her usual followers praising her. But then, something shifted. Someone shared the video to Twitter with the caption, "Imagine selling your black family's freedom papers from slavery to party in Greece." It started getting attention. Real attention. Within 6 hours, the video had 340,000 views. People were finding Jordan's other posts. Her comments about leaving broke people behind. Her posts mocking struggle and poverty. Her obvious shame about being black, about having a working-class mother, about coming from a history she wanted to erase. The backlash built like a wave. This is disgusting. She sold her ancestors' freedom papers? Imagine hating yourself this much. Her father was a history professor, and she sold his family's history? Someone had done research, found Vincent's obituary from 18 months ago, found his faculty page at Whitmore that was still up, found articles he'd written about black family history and the importance of preserving documentation from the slavery era. Professor Vincent Maxwell dedicated his life to teaching students to honor their history, one comment read. And his daughter sold his family's freedom papers for a vacation. This is tragic. Jordan started deleting comments. Then she made her account private. But it was too late. People had screenshots. People had downloaded the video. It was spreading across platforms. Reddit, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook groups about entitled college students. She'd gone viral, but not the way she wanted. That's when I made the call. Dr. Morrison, this is Cheryl Maxwell. I need to discuss the Vincent Maxwell Memorial Scholarship Fund. Cheryl. Dr. Patricia Morrison's voice was careful. I saw Jordan's posts. Half the faculty has seen them. I'm so sorry. Then you understand why I'm calling. Are you sure? This is significant. Once we revoke the scholarship, there's no taking it back quietly. Jordan will owe back tuition for this semester, $31,000. She'll be financially responsible for completing her degree. That's another $62,000 for senior year. I understand. The university will send official notification within 48 hours. She'll have 30 days to make payment arrangements or face academic withdrawal. She gets home from Mykonos tomorrow. Perfect timing. Cheryl, I have to ask, is there any chance you want to fund her education privately? Many parents in your position choose to continue support but remove the scholarship designation. No. Jordan needs to understand that disrespecting her father's memory has consequences. Real ones. What about her future? Her degree? Jordan told me she's smart, that she earned everything through merit. If that's true, she'll figure it out. And if it's not true, she'll learn something more valuable than anything a degree can teach her. After I hung up, I sat in the quiet of Vincent's office. His books surrounded me, his handwriting in the margins where he'd made notes for lectures, his reading glasses still on the desk where he'd left them 18 months ago. I picked up the wedding photo, traced my finger over the locket I was wearing in the picture, the locket that was now gone. Did I do the right thing? I asked his image, but Vincent couldn't answer. He was gone. And I was alone with a decision that felt both necessary and devastating. The phone in my hand. The deed done. Jordan's perfect life about to collapse in ways she couldn't imagine. Her flight landed Tuesday at 3:47 p.m. I tracked it online. Watched the little airplane icon move across the screen, carrying my daughter back to a reality she wasn't prepared for. She'd posted one final Instagram story from the Athens airport, just before boarding. A selfie, her face glowing, her new bracelet visible, her designer sunglasses reflecting the terminal lights. The caption, "Back to reality, but taking the good vibes with me. Best investment I ever made. Sometimes you have to burn bridges to build your own path." Burn bridges. She had no idea how literal that was about to become. By Wednesday morning, she'd understand exactly what bridges she'd burned and exactly who'd been holding her up all along. Jordan's first call came at 9:23 a.m. Wednesday morning. I was at work, reviewing patient scheduling reports, when my phone started vibrating. Her name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. She called again immediately. Voicemail. Then again. By 10:15 a.m., she'd called 14 times. Finally a text. "Mom, call me right now. Something is wrong with my financial aid. My account says zero funding. This has to be a mistake." I waited until my lunch break to respond. "I know. Come home after your classes. We'll discuss it." Discuss what? I owe $31K by April 28th, or I get withdrawn from school. Did you do something? Did you call the university? I didn't respond. Let her sit with that panic. Let her spend the day checking her financial aid portal over and over, hoping the numbers would change. Let her understand what it felt like when the foundation you'd been standing on suddenly disappeared. She arrived home at 6:32 p.m. I heard her car in the driveway, heard the door slam, heard her footsteps pounding up the porch. She didn't knock, just burst through the front door like she was owed explanations. "What did you do?" No hello, no greeting, just accusation. I was sitting at the kitchen table, the same place where she'd told me about selling the locket. Calm, ready. "I revoked your scholarship." "You can't do that. You don't have that authority." "I'm the donor, Jordan. The fund belongs to me. I created it. I fund it, and I decide who receives it." Her face went through changes. Confusion, disbelief, then fear. "You're lying. You can't be the donor. You don't have that kind of money." "I have $4.8 million in assets. Your father's family trust. The same money that's been paying your $62,000 annual tuition for 5 years. The same family whose history you sold for a beach vacation." "No." She shook her head. "This is insane. You work in hospital administration. You drive a Honda. You shop at Target. I do all those things, and I also funded your entire college education. Those two facts aren't contradictory. You just assumed they were." She collapsed into the chair across from me. "If you have money, why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me think we were struggling?" "We weren't struggling. We're working class. There's a difference. Your father and I wanted you to understand the value of education, of building something yourself. We wanted you to succeed because of who you are, not because of what we have. So you lied to me my entire life." "No, Jordan. I lived the life I've always lived. You made assumptions. You decided I was pathetic and embarrassing because I didn't perform wealth the way your white friends' parents do. Because I didn't wear designer labels or drive a luxury car or live in a South Charlotte mansion. Everyone thought you were broke. Everyone pitied me. And you let them. You encouraged them. You built an entire identity around being ashamed of me. You told people I couldn't afford to save your father, that I couldn't contribute to your education. You created a narrative where you were the smart one rising above poverty, and I was the dead weight holding you back." Jordan's hands were shaking. "The university says, I owe $31,000 for this semester. I have 30 days to pay. How am I supposed to come up with that?" The same way you came up with $12,000 for Mykonos. Sell something valuable. I don't have anything valuable left. I sold the locket. Yes, you did. The one thing that might have gotten you through this. You traded for Instagram content and champagne on a yacht. Mom, please. Her voice cracked. Please don't do this. I'm sorry about the locket. I'm sorry about the posts. I'll delete everything. I'll apologize publicly. Just don't destroy my education. I'm not destroying anything. You did that yourself when you called your father's legacy a guilt trip, when you said his death was my fault because we were broke, when you posted a video to 47,000 followers saying our family history was worth more as cash than as memory. I was drunk. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. That video wasn't a mistake, Jordan. It was the truth you've been performing for years finally said out loud. You're ashamed of where you come from. You're ashamed of being black. You're ashamed of me. That's not true. I pulled out my phone, showed her the screenshot I'd saved, her video from the yacht, her words about Vincent's legacy being worthless, about poverty mentality, about freedom being a diamond bracelet instead of historical documentation. This is you, Jordan. This is who you chose to become. She stared at the screen, watching herself laugh and toast with champagne while dismissing 150 years of family survival. I can't believe you're doing this. I'm your daughter. And Vincent was your father, the man who worked 60-hour weeks teaching students to honor their history, who died believing you understood why that locket mattered. Who created the scholarship fund that's been paying your way through college without you even knowing his name was attached to it? What do you mean his name was attached? The Vincent Maxwell Memorial Scholarship Fund. Your scholarship. You never wondered why it had that specific name? You never thought to research who Vincent Maxwell was? Her face went pale. I thought it was just a random name, like the Smith Foundation or the Johnson Grant. I didn't think it was literal. It was your father, Jordan. Every semester when you accepted that scholarship money, every time you signed the paperwork, his name was right there, Vincent Maxwell Memorial Fund. Created in loving memory of Professor Vincent Maxwell, 1968 to 2023. Dedicated to supporting first-generation college students pursuing degrees in the humanities. I never read the full description. I just saw a scholarship accepted and moved on. Exactly. You never bothered to look, never bothered to ask, never bothered to wonder who was making your education possible. You just assumed you deserved it, that your merit alone earned it, that you were special. So what now? You just let me fail? Let me lose everything? Now you figure out who you want to be. The person who sells her family's freedom papers for Instagram likes, or the person who understands that some things matter more than money or status or fitting in with people who will never truly accept you anyway. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? My voice rose for the first time. Your great-great-great-grandmother Esther Maxwell was born enslaved. She worked for 8 years, saved every penny she could hide, and bought her freedom for $800 in gold in 1865. Those papers you sold represented her humanity legally recognized for the first time in her life. Her children built on that freedom. Her grandchildren went to college. Her great-grandson became a professor. And her great-great-granddaughter sold that entire legacy so she could party in Greece with white girls who probably don't even remember her name. Jordan's face crumpled. Real tears now, not the performative kind. I didn't understand. I didn't know what it meant. You didn't want to know. Understanding would have required you to care about something bigger than yourself. It would have required you to be proud of where you came from instead of ashamed. What am I supposed to do now? You have 30 days to come up with $31,000. Start figuring it out. And senior year? Even if I somehow pay this semester, I still need $62,000 for next year. Student loans, jobs, payment plans, the same way millions of students without family money do it. You're really going to make me take out loans when you're sitting on almost $5 million? I'm not making you do anything. I'm letting you experience the natural consequences of your choices. She stood up, grabbed her keys. I can't be here right now. I can't look at you. Where are you going? I don't know. Anywhere but here. She headed for the door, then stopped. You know what the worst part is? Not that you have money. Not even that you're taking away my scholarship. It's that you waited until I was at my lowest to tell me the truth. You could have told me years ago. You could have taught me about the family history, about the locket, about what it all meant. But you didn't. You stayed silent and let me make assumptions, and now you're punishing me for not knowing things you never taught me. I tried to teach you, Jordan. Your father tried, but you didn't want to learn. You wanted to erase us, and now you're living with what that erasure costs. She left without another word. I heard her car start, heard her drive away too fast, and I sat in the silence wondering if I'd just saved my daughter or lost her forever. Vincent's photo was still on his desk. I picked it up, studied his face, wished desperately that he could tell me if I was doing the right thing. But Vincent was gone, and the locket that had survived 150 years of history was gone too. And Jordan's future hung in the balance of whether she could learn in 30 days what she'd refused to learn in 22 years. That respect isn't inherited. That history matters. That some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt the same way. I just hoped she figured it out before it was too late. The first 48 hours after our confrontation, Jordan didn't come home. She stayed with her friend Madison in the dorms, then tried Jessica's off-campus apartment. But by day 3, those doors started closing. Madison's roommate had seen the viral video. Jessica's parents didn't want drama in their house. One by one, Jordan's support system evaporated like it had never existed. She came home on March 31st, just after 11 p.m. I heard her key in the lock, heard her trying to be quiet as she climbed the stairs to her room. The next morning, I found her at the kitchen table, laptop open, surrounded by loan applications and financial aid forms. Her eyes were red and swollen. She'd been crying. I can't get approved for private loans, she said without looking up. I applied to 7 lenders. They all denied me. My credit history isn't long enough. They want a cosigner with good credit and steady income. I poured myself coffee, sat across from her, said nothing. I went to the financial aid office yesterday. They said the maximum federal loan I can take for senior year is $12,500. That doesn't even cover 1 semester. Her voice was flat, defeated. For this semester, they said I could try a payment plan, but I need at least $10,000 down by April 28th to avoid withdrawal. How much do you have? $743 in checking. Maybe another $200 in my savings account that I was using for emergencies. What happened to the rest of the $92,000? Her jaw tightened. The trip was $12,000. I bought clothes, accessories, the bracelet. I gave Madison and Jessica money for their share of expenses. I upgraded our villa booking. I invested in content creation equipment, a new camera, lighting for my Instagram. So you spent it all. I have assets. My camera equipment is worth maybe $3,000. I could sell that. That still leaves you $7,000 short for the down payment. I know the math, Mom. Over the next week, I watched Jordan transform from someone who'd never held a job into someone desperate for any work. She applied to 31 positions. Coffee shops, retail stores, campus dining, bookstores, tutoring centers, anything that might hire quickly and pay immediately. The rejections came fast. Most employers Googled her name and found the viral video, the girl who called her father's legacy worthless, the girl who mocked poverty and struggle, the girl who sold her family's freedom papers for a vacation. "This is following me everywhere," she said one evening, staring at another rejection email. The Starbucks manager pulled up my Instagram during the interview, asked me if I thought I was too good to make coffee. When I said no, She said my social media presence suggested otherwise. Did you explain? Explain what? That I was drunk when I posted? That I didn't mean it? She said character shows up when people think no one important is watching. She said she couldn't trust me with customers. Finally, on April 9th, Jordan got hired, campus dining services, the main cafeteria, $8.50 an hour, 20 hours per week maximum because of her course load. She'd be serving food to the same students she used to look down on, wearing a hairnet and uniform, cleaning tables, taking meal swipe cards. Her first shift was April 11th. She came home at 9:30 p.m., smelling like industrial dishwasher soap and fryer grease. Her hands were red from hot water. Her carefully maintained manicure was destroyed. She went straight upstairs without saying anything. The math was brutal, and we both knew it. 20 hours a week at $8.50 an hour was $170 before taxes, maybe $135 after. 3 weeks until the deadline meant roughly $400 total. She needed $10,000. She was $9,600 short. 2 days later, Jordan came home with news. I got a second job. Cleaning offices downtown. Night shift on weekends. $13 an hour. If I work both jobs and every available shift, I can make maybe $900 by the deadline. Still $9,100 short, but she was trying. There's one more thing, she said quietly. I'm selling my car. Her 2019 Mazda CX-5. The one Vincent had co-signed for when she turned 18, worth maybe $16,000 if she was lucky, enough to cover the down payment with some left over. Are you sure? I don't have a choice. I need to stay in school. How will you get to your jobs? To class? Bus, Uber, walking. I'll figure it out. She listed it that night on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, Auto Trader. Within 36 hours, she had 3 potential buyers. By April 15th, she'd accepted an offer. $14,800. The buyer would pick it up April 20th. The morning the car sold, I watched from the kitchen window. Jordan handed over the keys and title, took the cashier's check, stood in the driveway watching her Independence drive away. She stayed there for almost 10 minutes, just staring at the empty space. When she came inside, her face was composed. No tears, just acceptance. I did it. I have enough for the down payment. $15,543 total with my job earnings. What about next semester? Senior year? I'll figure it out. One crisis at a time. She went upstairs to her room. I heard her making calls, setting up the payment plan with the bursar's office, arranging her work schedules around her class times, planning a life that looked nothing like what she'd imagined 6 weeks ago. That evening, she came back downstairs. Found me in Vincent's office. Mom, I need to ask you something. What? When this is over, when I've paid everything back, proven I learned my lesson, will you ever forgive me for selling the locket? I looked at my daughter, saw Vincent in her eyes, saw Esther Maxwell's survival instinct in her determination, saw someone who'd been broken and was trying to figure out how to rebuild. Ask me when you understand what you actually did wrong. I sold Dad's family heirloom. I disrespected his memory. I chose money over history. That's what you did. But do you understand why it was wrong? She was quiet for a long moment. Because it wasn't mine to sell. Because it belonged to all of us. Past, present, future. Keep going. Because some things can't be replaced with money. Because history isn't just stories. It's proof of who we are and where we came from. You're getting closer. But you're not there yet. Then tell me what I'm missing. When you figure it out, you won't need me to tell you. Jordan's transformation over the next 3 weeks wasn't the dramatic character growth you see in movies. It was slower, messier, more painful. She worked her 2 jobs, attended her classes, rode the bus for 90 minutes each way because she no longer had a car. Her Instagram went silent. No posts, no stories, just the ghost of who she used to pretend to be. But the internet hadn't forgotten. Her viral video kept circulating. New platforms kept discovering it. By mid-April, it had been shared over 2 million times across Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, and Facebook. She'd become a cautionary tale, a meme. The girl who sold her family's freedom papers for a vacation. "Someone made a TikTok about me," she said one evening, showing me her phone. A stranger had used her video as background audio while text overlay explained the history of freedom papers, why they mattered, what they represented to Black families. The caption: "Imagine your ancestor buying their humanity in 1865 and their great-great-great-granddaughter selling that proof for Instagram clout." It had 4.3 million views. "They found Dad's faculty page," Jordan continued, scrolling. Someone linked to his publications, his research on Black family preservation during Reconstruction. The comments are brutal. They're saying I dishonored everything he stood for, that he'd be ashamed of me. Would he? She looked up, eyes wet. Yes. On April 22nd, something shifted. Jordan came home from her cafeteria shift and went straight to Vincent's office. I followed, stood in the doorway, watched her looking at his books. She pulled one from the shelf, Preserving Black Family History, Documentation and Identity in Post. Slavery America by Vincent L. Maxwell, Ph.D., published 2019. "I never read Dad's book," she said quietly. "He gave me a signed copy when it came out. I said thank you and put it on my shelf and never opened it." Why not? Because I didn't want to think about slavery, didn't want to think about struggle. I wanted to be the girl who transcended all that, who moved beyond history into something better. And now? Now I understand you can't transcend history, you can only honor it or betray it. She opened the book to the dedication page. "For Jordan, who carries the future of all who came before. May you always remember that freedom is not given, it is earned, preserved, and passed forward." She read it 3 times, then closed the book carefully. He dedicated his life's work to me. And I sold the most important artifact from that work for a beach vacation. That night, Jordan did something I didn't expect. She posted on Instagram for the first time in 4 weeks. Not a defense, not an excuse, just truth. "My name is Jordan Maxwell. 5 weeks ago, I sold my father's family heirloom for $92,000 to fund a spring break trip to Mykonos. That heirloom was a gold locket containing freedom papers from 1865. Documentation that proved my great-great-great-grandmother Esther Maxwell had purchased her own freedom from slavery. Those papers represented 150 years of my family's history. They were irreplaceable, and I sold them because I was ashamed of where I came from, because I wanted to fit into spaces that were never built for people who look like me, because I thought erasing my history would make me more acceptable to people whose acceptance was never worth having. I was wrong. Profoundly, completely wrong. My father, Professor Vincent Maxwell, spent his life teaching students to honor their family histories, to preserve documentation, to understand that our past shapes our present and future. And I betrayed everything he believed in. I can't get the locket back. I can't undo what I did, but I can acknowledge it. I can own it. And I can spend the rest of my life trying to become someone who would never make that choice again. To the Black community I disrespected, I'm sorry. To my mother who I mocked and dismissed, I'm sorry. To my father's memory, I'm sorry. And to Esther Maxwell, whose freedom I treated as disposable, I'm sorry. She posted it at 11:47 p.m. By morning, it had 890,000 views. The comments were mixed. Some people said it was too late, that apologies don't fix betrayal. Others said accountability was the first step toward redemption. A few said they hoped she learned from this, that growth was possible even after terrible mistakes. But one comment stopped me cold. from a username I didn't recognize. Jordan, this is Professor Marcus Chen from Whitmore's History Department. I worked with your father for 12 years. I need you to know something about the Vincent Maxwell Memorial Scholarship Fund. Your mother isn't just the donor. The fund was your father's idea. He set it up in his will, left instructions for how it should be administered. He wanted it named after him specifically so that every recipient would know they were being supported by a black professor who believed in them. He wanted his name attached to their success. And you were the first recipient he chose. Before he died, he told me he was so proud you'd be carrying his name forward through your education. I thought you should know that. Jordan read that comment 11 times. Then she looked at me, standing in the kitchen doorway. You never told me Dad set up the scholarship. You let me think you did it. I administered it after he died, but yes, it was his design, his legacy plan. So when I accepted that scholarship every semester, I was accepting money Dad set aside specifically for me. Money attached to his name, his reputation, his life's work. Yes, and I never even looked at who Vincent Maxwell was, never researched the fund. Never wondered why it had that specific name. No, you didn't. She sat down hard in the kitchen chair. I didn't just sell Dad's locket. I've been disrespecting his actual legacy for 5 years, taking his money while being ashamed of his memory. Building my education on his sacrifice while pretending he didn't matter. Now you're getting closer to understanding. Closer? Mom, I destroyed everything. The locket. The scholarship, his name, his trust in me. How do I even begin to fix this? You can't fix it, Jordan. Some things, once broken, stay broken. You can only build something new from the pieces. The weeks after Jordan's public apology were harder than the weeks before it. Accountability, it turned out, didn't erase consequences. It just meant living with them more consciously. She kept working both jobs. Cafeteria shifts where students she used to party with now watched her clear their trays. Night cleaning shifts where she scrubbed toilets in the same academic buildings where her father had once taught. Her Instagram followers dropped from 47,000 to 8,200. The brand partnerships she'd been courting disappeared. The influencer life she'd been building evaporated like it had never existed. Someone spit in my face today, she told me one evening in early May. She said it calmly, matter-of-factly, like she was reporting the weather. A girl in the cafeteria line. She recognized me from the videos, called me a race traitor, said I sold out my ancestors for white approval. Then she spit directly in my face in front of maybe 50 people. What did you do? Nothing. I cleaned it off. Finished my shift. What could I do? She wasn't wrong. She was wrong to assault you. Was she? I disrespected 150 years of Black family history. I called my father's legacy worthless. Maybe I deserved it. Jordan, you made terrible choices. That doesn't mean you deserve to be assaulted. Doesn't it? Actions have consequences, right? That's what you've been teaching me. Well, this is a consequence. By finals week, Jordan had saved $4,800 towards senior year tuition. It wasn't nearly enough, but it was something. She'd also started volunteering at the Black Cultural Center on campus, helping organize their archives, digitizing historical documents, small penance for destroying her own. I met a woman today, she said one Saturday evening, Dr. Evelyn Morrison. She's 87. She brought in her grandmother's freedom papers from 1863. She wanted them preserved, protected. She told me her grandmother kept those papers hidden for 60 years because white people would sometimes challenge Black folks' freedom claims even after the war. She said those papers saved her grandmother's life 3 different times when white mobs tried to re-enslave freed Black people. Jordan's voice broke. She was so careful with them, Mom. Wore gloves, held them like they were made of glass. and I just sold Dad's papers to a random jeweler like they were nothing. Have you tried to track down who bought them? The jeweler won't tell me. Client confidentiality. He said the buyer paid cash and didn't leave contact information. The locket and papers are gone. Probably separated. Probably destroyed. 150 years of history erased because I wanted to party in Greece. But on May 18th, something unexpected happened. Jordan received a DM on Instagram from an account called Historical Preservation Atlanta. Miss Maxwell, my name is Dr. Patricia Okonkwo. I'm a historian specializing in Civil War-era documentation. I believe I may have acquired an item that belongs to your family. Could we speak? Jordan showed me the message, her hands shaking. Do you think? Call her. The conversation lasted 47 minutes. Dr. Okonkwo had purchased the locket and freedom papers from an estate sale in Atlanta. She'd been researching the provenance and found Jordan's viral video, traced the timeline, realized these might be the same papers. I paid $78,000 for them, Dr. Okonkwo said. The estate seller had purchased them from a jeweler in Charlotte who'd acquired them from a college student in March. The documentation trail led me to you. Are you willing to sell them back? Jordan asked, her voice barely a whisper. That depends. These papers have significant historical value. They belong in an archive or museum where they can be preserved and studied, but I also understand they're your family's heritage. So I'm willing to make an arrangement. You can buy them back for what I paid, $78,000. Or you can donate them to a Black History museum with your family's name attached, and I'll donate my purchase price as a tax write-off. Either way, the papers get preserved properly. After the call ended, Jordan sat motionless at the kitchen table. $78,000. I sold them for $92,000 and spent it all. Now they're worth $78,000, and I have $4,800 total. I can't afford to buy back what I destroyed. What about the museum option? Then they're gone forever. Not ours anymore. Dad's gone, the locket's gone, and now the papers would be gone too. Everything he valued, everything Esther Maxwell fought for, just gone. But preserved, protected, available for others to learn from. That's not the same as having them back. As being able to pass them to my children someday, like Dad wanted. No, it's not. Some consequences are permanent, Jordan. Some things you break can't be unbroken. You have to decide what matters more. Ownership or preservation. Having them or honoring them. She put her head in her hands. I don't know how to make that choice. Then you have time to think about it. Dr. Okonkwo said she'd hold them for 60 days while you decide. 60 days to choose between getting back what she'd destroyed or letting it go forever in the name of something bigger than herself. 60 days to figure out if redemption meant recovering what was lost or accepting that some losses can only be honored, never healed. For 3 weeks, Jordan wrestled with the choice. I watched her make spreadsheets, calculating how long it would take to save $78,000 while working 2 minimum wage jobs and paying for her senior year. The math was brutal. At her current pace, maybe 8 years if she lived like a monk and nothing went wrong. By then, Dr. Okonkwo's 60-day hold would be long expired. I could take out more loans, she said one evening, surrounded by financial aid forms. Private loans with terrible interest rates. Maybe cobble together $78,000 over 2 years if I defer school, work full-time, destroy my credit. To buy back something you sold for vacation money. To get back Dad's legacy. To fix what I broke. Would that fix it, Jordan? Or would it just let you feel less guilty? She didn't answer. On June 3rd, Jordan asked if we could visit Vincent's grave. We hadn't been together since the funeral. I drove us to the cemetery in silence. She carried the book he'd written, the one she'd never read until a month ago. At his headstone, she sat in the grass and talked to him like he could hear. Dad, I messed up. I sold your grandmother's locket. I disrespected everything you taught. I was ashamed of you, of Mom, of our family. I wanted to be someone else, someone white adjacent, someone who didn't carry the weight of our history. And I hurt everyone, including myself. She paused, wiped her eyes. Dr. Okonkwo found the Freedom Papers. She's offering to let me buy them back for $78,000 or donate them to a museum in your name. I don't have the money. I destroyed it. But I keep thinking about what you would want. Would you want them back in our family? Or would you want them preserved where thousands of people could learn from them? I sat beside her on the grass. Your father used to say that history doesn't belong to individuals, it belongs to communities, to generations. He'd want those papers protected, studied, honored, not hidden in a drawer where only we could see them. But they're ours. They're Esther Maxwell's proof that she was human, not property. Don't we have a responsibility to keep them? We have a responsibility to honor them. Keeping and honoring aren't always the same thing. Jordan pulled out her phone, showed me something she'd been working on. A proposal to Dr. Okonkwo. What if I donate the papers to the National Museum of African American History and Culture in D.C., with a full provenance document explaining Esther Maxwell's story, Dad's career as a historian, and my mistake in selling them. Everything. The truth. So that anyone who sees those papers understands not just what they represent, but what happens when we forget to value our own history. You'd put your failure on display? I'd put the lesson on display. Maybe some other two-year-old will see it and not make the same mistake. Maybe that's worth more than me getting them back. That's a hard choice, Jordan. Good. It should be hard. Easy choices don't teach you anything. 2 days later, she called Dr. Okonkwo and made the donation official. The papers would go to the museum with full documentation. The Maxwell family story, preserved forever, including the part where the great-great-great-granddaughter sold them and had to learn what they actually meant. The day she signed the papers, Jordan came home and found me in Vincent's office. I did it. They're gone. Really gone this time. But maybe that's okay. Maybe some things aren't meant to be possessed, just protected. Your father would be proud of that choice. Would he? I still destroyed them first. I still sold them for Instagram likes and beach clubs. Yes, you did. And then you spent 3 months learning what they actually meant. And then you made a choice that put their preservation above your guilt. That's not redemption, Jordan, but it's growth. She picked up the wedding photo from Vincent's desk, the one where I wore the locket. I can't get this back. The actual locket. It's melted down somewhere, probably. Gone. Yes. So we have the papers preserved, but the locket destroyed. The documentation survives, but the physical object doesn't. Is that enough? I don't know. Ask me in 10 years. Ask me when you have children of your own, and you have to explain to them why there's no family heirloom to pass down. Why there are just photos and museum exhibits and lessons about consequences. That's a hard conversation. Good. The important ones usually are. But there was something else Jordan didn't know yet. Something I'd been holding back. A final test to see if she'd really learned what her father tried to teach. The senior year tuition bill was coming due in August. $62,000. Jordan had $4,800 saved. She'd need loans, payment plans, maybe another job. She was prepared to struggle for it. What she wasn't prepared for was what I was about to offer her, and the choice that came with it. August 1st, 2 weeks before senior year tuition was due, I asked Jordan to sit down with me at the kitchen table. She looked tired. 2 jobs all summer, saving every penny. Still only had $8,200 toward the $62,000 she needed. She'd been researching loan options, talking to financial aid advisors, preparing to piece together whatever funding she could find. I want to make you an offer, I said. She looked up, cautious. What kind of offer? I'll pay your senior year tuition. All of it. $62,000. You can focus on school, quit the cafeteria job, graduate on time without debt. Her face went through changes. Hope, relief, suspicion. What's the catch? The catch is that it comes with conditions. You'll sign a contract. After graduation, you'll work in a field that serves the Black community. Education, social work, nonprofit, something that gives back for at least 5 years. You'll also commit to teaching your future children about their family history, about Esther Maxwell, about the Freedom Papers, about what they meant and why they mattered, and you'll never, ever sell family history for personal gain again. That's it? You'll give me $62,000 if I promise to work in public service and teach my kids about our family? I'll give you $62,000 if you understand that education isn't just for personal advancement, it's for community uplift. That's what your father believed. That's what the scholarship was always meant to teach. Jordan was quiet for a long moment. What if I say no? What if I want to figure this out myself? Take the loans, keep working, do it without your help? Then you do it yourself. And I respect that choice too. But either way, you don't get the money without understanding why it's being offered. This isn't about rescuing you. It's about you choosing what kind of person you want to become. She stared at the contract I'd drawn up. Simple terms, clearly stated. Then she looked up at me. If I take this, people will say I didn't really learn anything, that you just bailed me out in the end, that I faced consequences for 3 months and then Mommy's money saved me. Probably. Does that matter to you? I don't know. Part of me wants to prove I can do this alone, that I can earn my degree without your help, without anyone's help, that I'm not the spoiled girl from the video anymore. And the other part? The other part knows that refusing help out of pride is just another form of ego. That Dad's scholarship was never about students doing it alone. It was about community support, about people who have resources, helping people who need them, about understanding that we all need each other. So what's your answer? She read the contract again. All the terms, all the commitments. Then she set it down. I need 48 hours to think about it. Not because I don't trust you. Because I need to make sure I'm choosing for the right reasons. Not guilt, not convenience. But because I actually believe in what this represents. Fair enough. You have until August 3rd. Those 48 hours were the longest of my life. I didn't know which answer I wanted her to give. Independence had value, but so did understanding that accepting help wasn't weakness. That community meant carrying each other. On August 3rd at 6:15 p.m., Jordan came downstairs with the signed contract. I'm taking the offer. Not because it's easy, because I want to spend my life doing work that matters, work that Dad would recognize, work that honors what Esther Maxwell fought for. I can't get the locket back. I can't undo selling the papers, but I can become someone who builds instead of destroys, someone who preserves instead of erases. You're sure? No. But I'm choosing it anyway. I signed the contract too, mother and daughter. A new agreement built on the ruins of the old one. Not perfect, not clean, but honest. 6 months later, Jordan graduated with a degree in African American Studies. She got a job at the National Museum of African American History and Culture, working in the archives department. The same museum where Esther Maxwell's Freedom Papers now lived. She sees them every day, a reminder of what she destroyed, what she learned, and what she still carries forward. Our relationship isn't healed, maybe it never will be completely. But we're building something new from what broke. She calls me twice a week. Visits once a month. We're learning each other again. Not as the mother and daughter we were, but as the people we actually are. The locket is gone forever. Vincent is gone. The innocence of thinking love alone is enough. That's gone too. But what remains is harder, more honest, more real. Jordan understands now that history isn't just stories, it's responsibility. It's weight you carry not because it's comfortable, but because it's yours. And me? I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone fall. Not to punish them, but to teach them that the ground is real, that consequences matter, and that getting back up is a choice only they can make. That's Cheryl's story. That's what happened when my daughter sold 150 years of Black family history for a spring break vacation. Now, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching this from? What city? What country? Drop it in the comments below. I love seeing our global community come together over these powerful stories about family, legacy, and the price of forgetting where you came from. Real question. If you were Cheryl, what would you have done? Would you have revoked the scholarship immediately? Would you have told Jordan about the money years earlier? Or would you have handled this completely differently? Because here's the thing, I still don't know if I made the right choice. I gave Jordan consequences that nearly destroyed her future. Some people say I was teaching her respect, others say I was cruel. What do you think? Tell me in the comments. Hit that like button if this story made you feel something. Share it if you know someone who's ever taken their family for granted. Someone who didn't realize what they had until it was gone. Someone who learned the hard way that some mistakes can't be undone, only lived with. And subscribe for more real, complicated stories about mothers and daughters, about generational wealth and family legacy, about what happens when you try to erase your history, and whether redemption is possible after you've destroyed something irreplaceable. See you in the next video.